Welcome to Betrayal and Revenge. I'm your storyteller, and today I'll take you on a journey of secrets, lies, and payback. Make sure you stay with me until the very end. You won't want to miss how it all unfolds. And when it's over, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let me know what you think. The last thing Lauren ever said to me before the divorce was final wasn't cruel. That would have been easier. It was casual. Almost kind. Eric, this just isn't working. You're too distant. We've outgrown each other. Let's not make this messy. As if she hadn't been sleeping with her personal trainer for the last 6 months. As if she hadn't already moved half of her things into his condo before I even signed the paperwork. As if I didn't know she'd played the legal system like a violin, convincing a court I was emotionally absent and inattentive, so she could stay in the house I built with my own 2 hands. No, she wasn't cruel. She was efficient. And efficiency cuts deeper than cruelty ever could. I didn't fight in court. I didn't scream. I didn't beg for the judge to reconsider. I signed the papers, handed her the keys, and moved into a bland corporate rental with no soul, no character, and no goddamn windows that opened properly. Friends called me brave for staying calm. Therapists called me numb. I didn't correct them. What I felt couldn't be defined by words like grief or anger. It was more elemental. A slow burning pressure in the ribs. A stillness in my blood, like everything inside me had frozen just long enough to harden. In the evenings, I'd drive past the old neighborhood, not out of nostalgia, but to remind myself that it was real. That she was really there. That my former life was continuing without me, as if I'd never existed. And then, one Thursday in late September, I saw the sign. For sale, by owner. 3 houses down from mine. From hers. An older man was packing boxes into a van, swearing about taxes and grandkids in Florida. I stopped the car. Rolled down the window. You selling? I asked. He looked up, squinting. Yeah. You buying? And just like that, the plan began. Not revenge. Not yet. Something colder. More deliberate. I wasn't going to burn her world down. I was going to build a better one, right next to hers. The house wasn't much. Not at first glance. Peeling paint on the porch rail, ivy choking one side of the chimney, a cracked window above the garage. But I didn't see a fixer-upper, I saw a stage. And I was going to perform the quietest, slowest, most precise act of theater that woman had ever witnessed. I bought it in cash. No realtor. No financing. Just a wire transfer, a handshake, and one silent signature on a deed that made me, once again, a resident of the street I had designed years ago with my own blueprint. 2 weeks later, I pulled into the driveway in a nondescript black pickup. Nothing flashy. I didn't want drama. Not yet. I unloaded my boxes alone. Furniture, tools, files. No movers. I didn't need an audience. I wanted rumors, soft ones. The kind that crawl through neighborhood group chats and backyard wine nights. It didn't take long. I caught my first glimpse of Lauren on day 3. She stepped out of the house, my house, once, wearing one of those athleisure sets that used to drive me wild. Only now, the sight of her skin-tight leggings and forced ponytail didn't do anything but register as data. She still wanted to be seen. Still performing. She paused when she saw me across the street. Her sunglasses were too big for her face, but I recognized the flicker of uncertainty beneath them. Her walk slowed, just enough to register confusion. Eric? She called out, cautious. I didn't look up. Just carried a box inside, closed the door behind me. The message was clear. I wasn't there for her. I wasn't even there to talk. I was simply there. And being there was the beginning. Inside, the place smelled like dust and regret. But I made it home. Slowly. One board at a time. I redid the floors in silence. Painted the walls a shade darker than hers. Installed lighting that dimmed with a whisper. I planted hedges, not to block her view, but to shape it. I opened my windows wide when she had guests over. Played jazz at just the right volume, at just the right time, when her laughter from the backyard would try to bleed across the lawn. And I made damn sure my presence was felt, not loud, not aggressive, just undeniable. When her new boyfriend, Jason, pulled up one night with his ridiculous muscle car, I happened to be out front watering the grass. Shirt off. Muscles tense. Eyes calm. I didn't wave. Jason looked at me like a ghost. Lauren didn't even get out of the car. She was learning. This wasn't about reclaiming her. It was about reminding her that I had never belonged to her in the first place. By the time fall curled its fingers around the trees, Lauren had started to notice the rhythm of my presence. Not because I did anything overt. No confrontations, no pointed conversations. Just existence, methodical, deliberate, unnervingly composed. Every Saturday morning, I walked past her house with a coffee in hand, dressed in tailored simplicity. She'd be out front sometimes, trimming the hedge she used to beg me to take care of, pretending not to look. But I saw the twitch in her fingers when she noticed the upgraded watch on my wrist. The sharper line of my jaw. The silence I wore like armor. I started hosting people. Carefully curated guests. A chef friend from Seattle came to visit and cooked on the patio, while soft instrumental played through outdoor speakers. Laughter, controlled and elegant, spilled over the fence. Lauren peeked out from her window twice. Jason, the boyfriend, didn't show his face all weekend. And still, I said nothing. That was the key. No anger. No drama. Just presence. Because nothing unnerves a person more than the one they tried to destroy coming back better, and not caring enough to punish them. The real shift came one evening in October. I was on my porch reading when Lauren walked over, arms folded like a shield. "You know this is weird, right?" she said, her voice light but sharp. "You buying the house next to me. Living here." I looked up slowly, then returned to my book. "I like the neighborhood." She waited. Wanted more. A jab. A wound to argue over. But I gave her nothing. Because I already had everything. She turned and walked away. Not with the strut she used to carry when she thought she'd won. But with the uneven steps of someone starting to realize. This wasn't her street anymore. It never had been. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just watched the leaves fall around her, one by one, as if the world itself was shedding her from the story. The stage was set. The house was mine. And now, it was time to start the second act. It started with the dog. Lauren never liked animals. Said they were messy, loud, unpredictable. But Jason had shown up one weekend with a pit bull lab mix from a rescue shelter, proudly calling him King. Big, muscular thing. Clearly not trained. Clearly meant to be some kind of masculine accessory. I remember watching from my porch as the dog immediately pissed on Lauren's hydrangeas. She flinched, then smiled, a tight, camera-ready smile she used to flash during holiday dinners, the one that said, "I hate this, but I'll pretend it's fine for now." Jason laughed, slapped her on the backside, and they disappeared inside. I made a note. By week 2, King had dug up half the backyard, barked at every delivery truck, and nearly bit the mail carrier. I knew, because I watched, casually, always casually, and took videos. Not to post. Not yet. Just to document. By week 3, Lauren started parking on the street instead of the driveway. Jason's car stayed for longer stretches. The grass began to die. Their porch light flickered for a week straight before getting fixed. Small signs. Cracks forming in a house she once ran like a curated showroom. And me? I was flourishing. Work was good. My firm had just landed a new civic design contract downtown. I installed a home gym. Took up baking, for no reason other than the smell of fresh bread bleeding into the cold air felt like power. People from the neighborhood started waving again. Even the ones who had stayed silent during the divorce. One of them, a woman named Celia who used to avoid eye contact at barbecues, brought over a bottle of wine and said, "We always wondered why you married her." I didn't answer. Just opened the wine. Lauren saw her leave 2 hours later. I could feel her watching from behind the curtains. Inside her house, I imagined the pressure building. She'd gotten everything she wanted. The house. The status. The clean break. But she hadn't expected me to remain visible. She hadn't expected me to grow louder in silence. Jason, meanwhile, was starting to show cracks. The kind that surface when someone who only thrives in chaos is forced to live in permanence. Arguments floated across the lawn. Muffled shouts. Slamming doors. And one night, glass breaking. I didn't react. Didn't intervene. But I stood at my kitchen window, just out of sight, letting the light spill across the counter in a warm, expensive glow. I was building something she couldn't touch. Couldn't replicate. And she knew it. The next morning, she jogged past my house. Full makeup. Bright running gear. Fast steps. She waved. I didn't wave back. Because by now, she'd begun to understand. This wasn't proximity. It was precision. By November, Lauren's house had become quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that sits heavy between people, a vacuum that sucks the color out of daily routines. I noticed the change not just in sound, but in motion. The porch light stayed off for days. The trash bins were left curbside for longer than usual. Jason's car disappeared for weekends at a time, and when it came back, it was caked in mud and dust, like he hadn't bothered stopping anywhere decent. Lauren, meanwhile, kept trying to perform normalcy. She started a garden club, invited 3 neighbors. Only one showed up. I watched her fake laughter under the pergola, offering tea and small sandwiches like everything was fine. But the woman barely stayed half an hour. I saw the look she gave Lauren when King barked uncontrollably from the backyard, then lunged at the fence like he wanted blood. The next week, Lauren came over. Not in some grand confrontation. Just a knock on the door. A quiet pause. I opened it slowly, made her wait. She stood there in a camel-colored coat, heels too high for the sidewalk, eyes ringed with fatigue. "Hey," she said, voice thin. "Just wanted to check in. I mean, it's weird, right? Living next door again." I stared at her. Let the silence stretch until it tugged at her nerves. "You checked in," I finally said. "Now you can check out." I shut the door. No anger. No drama. Just dismissal. And that hit harder than any insult. The next morning, someone slashed Jason's front tire. Not me. I never got my hands dirty. But the neighborhood had changed. People were less forgiving. The loud parties. The fights. The dog. Lauren had once been the polished queen of suburbia. Now she was an afterthought with a loud man and an aggressive pet. Even the HOA had started circling. I'd heard through Celia, now a regular visitor, that there were complaints. Grass too long. Dog too loud. Trash bins out on the wrong day. And Jason? He didn't care. But Lauren did. She always cared about appearances. Which made her next move predictable. She showed up again. This time, holding a bottle of red wine. Same label I'd shared with Celia. Coincidence? Hardly. "Eric," she said, "can we talk? Please?" I leaned against the doorframe. Took her in. She looked tired. Her hair wasn't done. Eyes puffy. "You already talked," I said. "When you left." She tried to smile. A sad practice thing. "That was a mistake." Ah. There it was. The first crack. The tiny, crumbling piece of certainty she had once worn like a crown. I didn't answer. Just stepped back and closed the door again, slow, deliberate, without a word. Behind the wood, I listened to her breathe. It hitched. Then she walked away. Later that night, I opened a window and let the cold air roll through the house. I stood there, hands in my pockets, as the lights in her kitchen flickered, went out, then came back on. A fuse? A surge? Maybe Jason was too lazy to fix it. Didn't matter. She wasn't looking for electricity. She was looking for control. and she'd already lost it. It all came to a head at the neighborhood's fall gathering. The same block party Lauren used to organize when we were married, the one she used to obsess over for weeks, curating matching napkins and themed hors d'oeuvres. This time, she wasn't in charge. Celia was. And she'd invited me personally. I didn't RSVP. I just showed up. Simple jeans. Dark sweater. One of those minimalist watches Lauren once gave me for our anniversary, back when she still bought gifts that meant something. I wore it deliberately. People noticed me. Not in the way you notice someone famous, but in the way you notice someone who's changed. Someone leaner, sharper, more confident than memory allows. Lauren arrived half an hour later with Jason trailing behind her like a bodyguard who'd rather be anywhere else. He was in sweatpants. She was overdressed, burgundy dress, forced smile, wine already in hand. She didn't spot me immediately. But when she did, her entire posture shifted. She walked over, slow, careful, the way people approach something dangerous when they're not sure it's been defused. "Eric," she said, breathy, "you look good." I raised an eyebrow. "You look present." She flinched, just enough for me to catch it. Jason caught up, eyed me, and extended a hand. "Hey, man. Heard you moved in next door." I shook it. Firm. Silent. He smiled, but his eyes narrowed. He didn't like me. That made two of us. I turned back to Lauren. "How's the house?" She hesitated. "It's home." But we both knew it wasn't. Not anymore. Not when the walls were thinner than the secrets they held. Not when the rooms echoed with arguments, and the garden died under the weight of a dog she didn't want. People started to circle. Not physically, but conversationally. The way neighbors do when something's about to happen. Whispers. Glances. And then, right there, Jason snapped. "You know what, Lauren?" He muttered loud enough for others to hear. "If you wanted to flirt with your ex, you should have invited him to dinner, not dragged me to this fake-ass party." Her eyes widened. "What are you talking about? You're staring at him like he's dessert. Meanwhile, I'm walking around here like some goddamn afterthought." Everyone froze. It wasn't the volume, it was the tone. The sharp, jagged edge of a man unraveling in public. Lauren reached for his arm, panicked. "Jason, stop." "No," he barked. "You don't get to play queen when your castle's falling apart. Your dog's a menace. Your neighbors hate you. You think you're still in control? Look around." He stormed off. The silence he left behind was thick. Embarrassing. Lauren stood alone, wine sloshing in her glass, face pale and tight. She looked around, no one moved. No one rushed to comfort her. Then her eyes landed on me. I tilted my head, just slightly. No smile. No pity. Just the cold acknowledgement that I had seen it all. And then I turned and walked away, without a word, without a glance back, leaving her standing in the center of a social collapse she could no longer manage. The unraveling was complete. Not because I humiliated her, but because I let her do it to herself. And the best part? She still didn't know what act was coming next. The beauty of controlled revenge is that you never raise your voice. You never lift a finger. You don't scream. You don't beg. You just tighten the screws. Slowly. Quietly. Until the only sound she hears is the creak of her own collapsing world. After the block party disaster, Lauren disappeared for a few days. Curtains drawn. No walks. No jogs. Jason's car didn't return. The trash bin stayed full at the curb. I didn't check on her. I just kept living. Celia came by the next evening. She brought apple pie. Said it was from the post-party leftovers. But I knew it wasn't. She lingered. Sat across from me on the porch swing and crossed her legs slowly. "You know she's unraveling, right?" she said, sipping wine. I didn't answer. "She's asking questions. About you. About your money. About how you landed on your feet so fast." Still, I said nothing. "It's driving her crazy." I smiled softly at that. Not cruelly, just thoughtfully. She wanted to win, I said. She forgot the game wasn't over. That week, I started working from home more often. Purposefully took meetings in front of my wide windows. Laptop open, Bluetooth headset on, camera facing the street. She could see me. Productive. Poised. Purposeful. Then came the contractor vans. New landscaping. Gravel imported from Oregon. A minimalist fire pit. Soft, understated lighting around the yard that made hers look like a budget rental. Lauren tried to keep up. Ordered new patio furniture. Hired a cleaner. But the money wasn't flowing the way it used to. And Jason, well, Jason was gone. Rumor had it he'd left for good. Some fight. Something about money, about the dog, about how she wasn't who she pretended to be. Classic. I didn't ask. I already knew. Then came the HOA letter. It didn't come from me. But I might have nudged the right people at the right time. Suggested they review noise complaints. Yard violations. Property aesthetics. Lauren stormed across my lawn that Friday, face flushed and fists clenched. "Did you do this?" she snapped, waving the envelope in my face. "You think you can just screw with me like this?" I didn't even flinch. "I didn't do anything," I said calmly. "Your actions have consequences." "Always did." She stared at me, really stared. And for the first time, I saw it, fear. Not of me. Of herself. Of the fact that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the victim of some unfair turn of fate. Maybe she had done this. All of this. Maybe she had always been the architect of her own failure. "You're sick," she hissed. "No," I replied. "I'm just still here. And that bothers you more than anything else." She left without another word. That night, I heard the dog barking again. Long, loud. Agitated. I closed my windows and turned on the fire pit, pouring myself a glass of scotch while the cold wrapped around my ankles like a shadow. The next phase was already in motion. All I had to do now was wait. There's a certain kind of fear that doesn't scream, it hums. A constant, low buzz that sets your teeth on edge and makes every silence feel suspicious. That was where Lauren lived now. In the hum. Not quite panicked, but never at peace. I didn't need to haunt her. I let her haunt herself. The letters kept coming. Not just from the HOA anymore. Animal control got involved after a neighbor's kid had a scare with King. The dog jumped the low part of the fence, teeth bared, barking like mad. No bite, but close enough. Lauren came home that day to a warning posted on her door. I watched from my front steps, sipping black coffee as she yanked it down, tore it in half, then stood there, frozen. Like she'd forgotten where the camera was pointed. Like she suddenly realized how many people were watching her fall from grace. The garden club had dropped her. Celia was hosting now. The invitations didn't reach Lauren's mailbox anymore. People she used to small talk with at the farmer's market crossed the street when she approached. Not because I told them anything, but because they'd seen enough. One morning, a property surveyor showed up. I made sure the truck had big decals. Bright logos. Legacy Realty Acquisitions. Lauren came storming over before I could even greet the man. "What is this? Are you selling?" I let the pause breathe. "No," I said. "I'm buying." She blinked. "Buying what?" I gestured across the street. "Celia's parents are moving. Downsizing. Offered me the house first. Couldn't say no." Her face fell. "You're buying that one too? Why not?" "I like the view." She looked over her shoulder at her own crumbling kingdom, then back at me. I could almost see the mental math. The house she fought to keep. The lover she gave up everything for. The world she thought she'd inherited. And there I was. Expanding. Growing. Surrounding her. Not violently. Not even emotionally. Just, logistically. Like a chessboard folding around its queen. That week, the real estate agent she'd worked with during our divorce reached out to me. He didn't say much. Just a simple email. Hey, strange question. Lauren asked about current market value. Said she's considering a sale? Just a heads up. I didn't reply. Instead, I sent a bouquet of white lilies to her address. No note. No signature. Just the kind of flowers you send when something dies. A few nights later, I saw her lights flicker again. Then go out. I stood at my window, watching her silhouette move through the house in candlelight. She didn't call an electrician. She didn't ask for help. She just endured. Because that's what happens when you steal peace and expect it to stay with you. You get to keep the house. But the home? That part's gone. The for sale sign appeared overnight. No announcement. No open house balloons. Just a quiet, desperate declaration stabbed into her front lawn like a white flag. I knew it was coming. That email from her realtor had been enough. But seeing the sign, tilted slightly, as if even the post knew it didn't belong there, was something else. It felt like punctuation. Not a period. A surrender. Lauren didn't come outside that day. Or the next. I figured she was inside calculating what she could get for the house, where she could go, how much of her old self she could salvage. The problem was, there wasn't much left to save. Not after Jason, not after the dog, not after the neighbors had closed ranks around her absence like scar tissue. She had become a ghost in her own kingdom. And I was the living reminder of what she'd lost. When the listing went live, I watched. Quietly. The description made me laugh. Beautiful suburban home with custom finishes, ideal for entertaining. Motivated seller. Motivated indeed. A few days later, a couple came to view it. Young, eager, a stroller in tow. Lauren answered the door herself. I watched from across the street, from behind tinted glass. She smiled, wide, practiced. Spoke too fast. Touched the walls with reverence, like she had to prove the house still loved her. They stayed 20 minutes. Left unimpressed. No one wants a haunted house when the ghost is still living in it. That evening, as twilight bled into the yard, she walked across my lawn again. No makeup. No shoes. Just a sweater 2 sizes too big and a look that could only be described as deflated. She didn't speak for a while. I waited. Finally, she asked, "Are you happy now?" A fair question. But I shook my head. This isn't about happiness. She looked confused. Broken. Then what was it about? I held her gaze. It was about truth. You spent years painting a life with lies. I just turned the canvas around. She swallowed hard, then nodded slowly. I want to leave. Then go. I can't. I waited again. It's not selling. No one wants it. And there it was. The poetic ending she never saw coming. She was stuck in the very place she stole, poisoned by her own fingerprints. Then live with it, I said. Like I had to. That night, the wind picked up. Dry leaves swirled across the porch. Somewhere, a loose shutter banged once, then again. Lauren didn't open her blinds the next morning. But I didn't need to see her. Because I'd already buried her. Not with rage. Not with fire. But with silence, space, and time. The kind of revenge you don't serve cold. You serve it slow, until she forgets what warmth felt like. 3 weeks passed. The sign was still there, but now the edges had curled from rain. Grass had started to grow taller around its base. Like even the yard wanted to choke the lie it held. I stopped paying attention. Not because I didn't care, because I had won. Revenge, when complete, leaves behind a peculiar emptiness. It's not satisfaction. It's not closure. It's quiet. Like the sound after a long scream. I spent more time with Celia. We didn't talk about Lauren. We didn't need to. We both knew that story had already run out of pages. Until the unexpected knock on my door. And behind it, another ghost. Lauren's sister. I hadn't seen her in years. Not since the wedding. She looked the same, sharp cheekbones, hair always too perfect for real life, and that suspicious glint in her eyes that made people lean back without realizing why. "Can I come in?" she asked. "This won't take long." Against my better judgment, I let her. She walked through my living room like she owned it, then turned and faced me directly. "Lauren told me everything." I didn't answer. "She's not well. She hasn't been well for a while." Still silence. "Look, I'm not here to defend her." She made her bed. "But she's unraveling. You know that, right?" I gave a small nod. "I'm here because she needs help. Real help. And I'm the only one she has left." I folded my arms. "She had help. She torched it." She nodded slowly. "True. But people make stupid choices when they're scared." I looked at her. Eyes steady. "And I make clear ones when I've been betrayed." That should have ended it. But she pulled something from her coat pocket and placed it on the table. A photo. Old. Me and Lauren, at our first house. Smiling. Yum. Before the rot. "She still keeps this," the sister said. "Then she's clinging to the wrong things." She paused. "She asked me to tell you, if she could go back, she would." "To that?" "To you." I scoffed, low and bitter. "Yeah. Because now there's no one else left to go forward with." That night I didn't sleep. Not because I doubted myself, but because I could feel it, that familiar scent of manipulation, dressed this time in nostalgia and second chances. Lauren wasn't reaching out. She was reaching up, from the pit she dug herself into. But I had no intention of throwing down a rope. 2 days later, I received a handwritten letter. In blue ink. Curved, soft handwriting. My name on the front, just Eric, no last name. Like she thought she still had the right. The envelope smelled like her old perfume. I didn't open it right away. I let it sit on the kitchen counter for hours, taunting me in its silence. An unopened apology. Or maybe a trap. Same difference. When I finally tore it open, the first line caught me off guard. "I know you won't believe me. But I'm not writing this to get you back." "Sure." She spoke about pain. About regret. About moments she wished she could relive, not to change the outcome, but to feel differently. She wrote about Jason and how quickly the fantasy crumbled once reality moved in with a toothbrush and attitude. She confessed she'd kept a box. Photos. Receipts. Pieces of our life. "Not because I wanted to relive it," she wrote. "Because I wanted to remember what it looked like when I was someone worth being loved." That line? That was the hook. The one she thought would pull me. But she misunderstood the man I had become. She thought I still needed to hear that she was once lovable. She didn't realize I had stopped needing her a long time ago. I didn't write back. Instead, I took the letter, folded it neatly, and placed it in the fireplace. I didn't burn it out of anger. I burned it like you burn a field before new planting, cleansing the ground. Making sure nothing toxic could root again. And that was when she knocked. Not her sister this time. Her. She stood on my porch, sweater too thin for the wind, eyes puffy but defiant. Like a fighter who didn't train but still came to the ring. "Did you read it?" I nodded. And it's done." She blinked. That wasn't in her script. "I'm not asking for you back." "Then why are you here?" She hesitated. That pause, just long enough to ruin her claim. "I needed you to know. I never meant for it to go this far. Far enough to tear it down. Just not far enough to take credit." She shifted her weight, swallowed hard. "I didn't come here to be blamed." "Then you're at the wrong door." I started to close it. She blocked it gently with her palm. "Eric." I lost myself. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want a reset. Just some kind of neutral ground." I stared at her. Really stared. And then I said it. "There's no neutral ground on a battlefield you started." Her hand dropped. Her shoulders collapsed inward. "So that's it? That's mercy." And I closed the door. This time she didn't knock again. Lauren was never the type to accept silence. When doors closed, she didn't knock again, she found a window. When windows locked, she tried the back gate. And when that wouldn't budge, she started shouting loud enough for the neighbors to wonder. The next move was inevitable. I saw it 3 days later, in the local Facebook community group. A post from a newly made account. Profile picture blurry. Name misspelled, probably on purpose. But the voice behind the words? I knew it. I'd slept beside it. I'd heard it lie before. It's disturbing how some people in this neighborhood use their money and influence to destroy others. To pretend they're the victims while manipulating everything around them. Just because someone loses a marriage doesn't mean they should lose their home, their dignity, or their community. The comments lit up quickly. Some offered sympathy. Others guessed at the subject. A few called it drama. But enough people connected dots. And by sunset, Lauren had a dozen likes, and maybe 5 real allies. One of them messaged me privately. "Hey, is that about you?" I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Instead, I responded differently. I sent the message thread to Celia. And Celia did what Celia does, organized. She put together a neighborhood response thread, facts, dates, screenshots. HOA violations. The legal mess Lauren created. The affair not as gossip, but as consequence. No name-calling. No aggression. Just clarity. It wasn't revenge. It was reputation management. Lauren tried to respond. Made another post, this one more emotional. Rambling. Claims about isolation, bullying, mental health. A few people voiced concern. 1 or 2 said, "Maybe we should let this go." But the rest? They didn't say anything. Because they'd already chosen sides. The next morning, the for sale sign was gone. Just like that. Pulled up, post and all. Vanished. And with it, her car. Her dog. Her. Lauren had packed overnight and left the house. Not sold. Not transferred. Just abandoned. The locks were still intact, the windows drawn. The place looked like a frozen time capsule of someone who lost the war but couldn't afford the surrender. I walked across the street that evening. For the first time since this began. I stood on her porch, took a deep breath, and peered through the front window. Stillness. Shadows and dust. No furniture. Just outlines on the carpet where life used to stand. Back home, I lit the fire pit and sat quietly. There was no celebration. No champagne. No victory lap. Only peace. And peace doesn't clap. It doesn't need to. Because this wasn't about winning her back. Or making her pay. This was about restoring gravity. About reminding someone that the universe doesn't orbit around their needs. That consequences, like shadows, stretch longer in the evening. And now? Now she was just another one. One more name in the list of people who once underestimated me. There's a kind of silence that doesn't sound empty, it sounds earned. That was the air inside my house now. No echoes of slammed doors. No voice calling my name with fake concern. No anxious footsteps pacing upstairs. Just stillness. It took a long time to get used to. Peace, real peace, isn't a parade. It's not music and toasts and standing ovations. It's mornings where you don't brace yourself before opening your phone. It's walking into a room and not flinching at old ghosts. It's drinking coffee without wondering who's going to poison the moment next. I stopped checking social media. Deleted the threads. Left the HOA chats. Turned down Celia's latest invitation to the neighborhood brunch. I wasn't avoiding the world. I was just rebuilding mine. Lauren's house sat empty for months. It turned into a dead spot on the street. No one mowed the lawn. Flyers built up at the door. Kids whispered rumors about why it was abandoned. Some said it was haunted. Some said someone died there. Some said the owner was crazy and watching from the woods. And all of it was a little bit true. Because what she left behind wasn't just property. It was residue. Her choices had stained everything she touched. Then, one day, a car showed up in the driveway. Not hers. A black SUV. Out stepped a woman, mid-30s, jeans and boots, clipboard in hand. She spent 15 minutes walking the perimeter, taking photos. Noticed me standing outside. She smiled. It was polite, simple. "You the neighbor?" she called out. I nodded. "Name's Julia. I'm with the bank. This one's about to go on the market." I walked over. Close enough to see the clipboard. "Foreclosed?" She nodded. "Technically abandoned. The owner disappeared. No forwarding info. We gave it time. Now it's inventory." She said it like it was a product. An item on a shelf. But to me, it was a chapter. And someone was finally closing the book. "You looking to buy it?" she asked. I shook my head. "No. I'm just ready for it to not be hers anymore." Julia studied me for a beat longer than necessary. Not flirtatious. Just curious. Like she could tell I wasn't just any neighbor. "Well, whatever happened here, it's a hell of a story." "Yeah," I said quietly. "But I'm not in it anymore." That night, I lit the last of the firewood from our old shed. The stack we used during winters. The one she used to complain about being too smoky. And I sat there, watching it burn, not thinking about Lauren. Not even remembering Jason. Not planning revenge or reading comments. Just breathing. The house behind me was warm. Mine again. But more than that, it was finally mine alone. 2 weeks after the woman from the bank came by, the house sold. Quietly. No sign this time, no open house, no trucks or commotion. Just one morning I stepped outside to grab the paper. Yes, I still read it, and saw lights on in the living room across the street. Different curtains. A warm lamp in the corner. And then a figure passed by the window. I froze. Not from fear. From recognition that something had truly ended. That house was no longer Lauren's. Not by law, not by memory, not even by ghost. Later that week I saw her. The new neighbor. She was kneeling in the front yard, tugging at overgrown weeds with work gloves and a focus I hadn't seen in a long time. I hesitated for a minute, then crossed the street slowly. "That lawn's got a history," I said with a half smile. She looked up, squinting in the sun. Her hair was pulled back, dusty, and she had dirt streaked across her cheek like a badge of effort. "Doesn't scare me." "Good. Most wouldn't even try." She pulled off a glove and offered her hand. "Sophie." "Eric." We shook. Firm grip. No pretense. No undertone. "You lived across the street long?" she asked. "Long enough to know the stories people whisper about that house." "Let me guess. Haunted. Cursed. Someone went insane?" "More or less." She smiled, not afraid. Just amused. "I like broken places. They don't lie." I looked at her longer this time. There was no resemblance to Lauren. Not in posture, not in voice, not in energy. Where Lauren always moved like someone on a stage, Sophie had a quiet steadiness. Where Lauren talked in promises, Sophie listened in pauses. We talked a few more minutes. Just enough to be neighborly. Just enough to be curious. And when I walked back across the street, I realized I didn't feel the weight anymore. That house wasn't a monument to my past. It was just a house. And Sophie? She wasn't a chapter I'd been waiting for. She was a clean page. The following days passed with soft rhythm. We waved. Shared coffee on the curb. She borrowed a toolbox. I helped her fix a warped cabinet door. We didn't flirt. We didn't pry. There was no game, no pressure, no masks. It felt like breathing next to someone who already knew the temperature of your lungs. 3 months later, Sophie and I had dinner. Not a date. Just two neighbors with too many takeout menus and the same disdain for cooking on Wednesdays. She brought Thai. I made tea. We sat on my porch, the one Lauren never liked because it faced the wrong way. But this evening? The wrong way felt like the exact direction I needed. The conversation drifted from books to cities, from careers to small griefs. She told me about a brother who never came home. I told her about an ex-wife who never really lived here to begin with. Was it love? She asked quietly, without judgment. I took a long breath. At the time, yes. But now, I think it was just a mirror. I loved who I was in her eyes. Or who I thought I was supposed to be. She nodded. And now? I looked out at the street. The house across from us. The porch lights dim. Curtains drawn. No ghosts. Now, I don't need the mirror. I know who I am when I close my eyes. She smiled, not wide, just honest. And that was it. Not some grand revelation. Not a kiss. Not a metaphor crashing into the moment. Just two people, finishing dinner, in a world that no longer needed to be rewritten. That night, I walked back into my house and stood in the living room. Same couch. Same rug. But something had changed. Not the walls. Me. Lauren was gone. Not just from this street, not just from my phone, but from the orbit of my mind. I didn't wish her pain. I didn't wish her peace. I wished her nothing, and that, I realized, was the truest form of letting go. I picked up the last photo I had of us. Not the wedding one. Not the beach trip. The blueprint of the house. The one we had designed together, before she chose another floor plan for her life. I folded it once. Then again. And again. Until it was small enough to fit inside a matchbox. I walked to the fire pit, struck a single flame, and dropped it inside. No rage. No sorrow. Just gravity. Some stories don't end with fire because they burn slowly all along. When I went back inside, Sophie had texted. Thanks for dinner. Your porch may face the wrong way, but the view's perfect. I smiled. Revenge had been sharp. Precise. Cold. But this? This was quiet. And quiet was all I ever wanted. Thank you for listening to this story until the very end. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to Betrayal and Revenge, give us a like, and hit the bell so you won't miss new tales. Share your thoughts in the comments. I value your feedback. See you in the next stories of Betrayal and Revenge.